Hello and welcome to CrossTalk. I'm Wes McAdams from Baker Heights Church of Christ. There is no one in this world more helpless and vulnerable than a child. Sadly, there are so many children who grow up in abusive and dysfunctional homes. Today we're going to talk about how one group of Christians is helping to rescue children from these types of homes. In doing so, these Christians are helping to change the world one child at a time. We'll be right back with today's special guest.
Baker Heights Church of Christ presents CrossTalk, a biblical discussion about today's most important issues.
I don't suppose there's anything that troubles my heart more than knowing that there are children out there right now who are being abused, mistreated, and neglected by the very people who are supposed to love them and protect them. Thankfully, there are Christians who have dedicated their lives to caring for these children and providing them with a home that's safe, loving, and focused on Christ. Today's guest is the preacher for the Eastland Church of Christ, and he also works with Foster's Children's Home in Stephenville, Texas. He's here to share with us some of the great work that's going on at that children's home, and also to remind us that caring for children in need is the responsibility of every Christian. Welcome to Crosstalk, Larry Roberts.
Thank you, Wes, and thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation. It is one that breaks my heart when I think about those kids out there that are in need, but it does my heart a lot of good to know that there are Christian people that are, dedicating their lives to helping those kids and giving them the safe, loving, and Christian home that they need. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've worked with the children's home in Stephenville?
Okay, Wes, I grew up in La Mesa, Texas, so I'm a Texan. I've preached in several states, but primarily in Texas for the last 38 years, 18 in Odessa, and I have been in Eastland for 20 years. Graduated from Abilene Christian University right here in Abilene. I became first in contact with Foster's Home for Children when I moved to Eastland 20 years ago. And Glenn Newberry, who's now the president and CEO, was in charge of development and calling on churches. We got to meet each other and know each other, and through our friendship I began working with the children's home. In 2005 I started working in a part-time role calling on churches. They call me a church relations representative, and I call on churches and thank them for their support. I also solicit support for the children at Foster's Home.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate the work that you do to help the work that they're doing there in Stephenville. Some people may not even be familiar with a home for children or a children's home. What does that term imply, and what are children's homes? So let's kind of give a general idea of what a children's home is.
Okay. First of all, a children's home, like Foster's Home for Children in Stephenville, is a residential home where children live on site. Unfortunately, we live in a society where children do not have a safe place to live. They are abused. Our children have many problems. As a matter of fact, the children that come to Foster's Home have usually been in the statistic says 3.5 or 3.5 homes. Wow. Before they come to us. Their home dysfunctions, they are sent to grandmothers and grandfathers, and we had one girl who came to us at age 11 who was living in an 18-wheeler truck with her grandmother driving.
Wow.
And children who come in come from all kinds of places. They've been at least 3 different places or more before we get them. And so they've had a very unstable life.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. Would you share with us a little bit about the history of Foster's Home there, and how that came about, when that came about, who started it, that kind of thing?
Well, I love the history of Foster's Home. Foster's Home, many times people misunderstand and think of foster home in the sense of people who foster a child in their home.
Right.
But Sherwood and Murdy Foster, who were a ranching couple from out in West Texas. They owned a ranch south of Odessa. Their ranch happened to be a ranch that had oil and gas. And in the 50s, I think it was in the 50s, they moved to Stephenville and started ranching there. out of their oil and gas money, they made a dream come true. And in 1958, they founded Foster's Home for Children, and Murdy died soon thereafter, but Sherwood lived long enough to see 5 homes built there on site of their original ranch house. And as a matter of fact, their original ranch house is still our home number 1. And so Foster's home was the dream of Sherwood and Murdy Foster. I have to tell a funny story about Murdy. She believed that their oil and gas money was luck. They owned the land, the oil and gas was discovered, and they profited from that. But she believed that her giving to God was something that wasn't luck. You had to earn it. And here was this lady who had oil and gas money. She sold magazines door to door to make money to give to the church, because she felt like it wasn't supposed to cost her nothing. She had to give something that cost her something.
Wow.
They're wonderful people.
So they had all this money, but she didn't feel like that was much of a sacrifice because she didn't know the oil was there to begin with. And wow, what an inspirational story for the rest of us to see people that have something and say, I need to give to the Lord, but also to help others that are in need, and to give so much of themselves and so much of their resources to help others. That should challenge the rest of us to take whatever we have, even if we don't have a bunch of oil money, but if she could get out and sell magazines so that she could help others and give to the Lord, what a fantastic thing that is. So there's several cottages or several homes that are there on the place. How many young people, how many kids on average does Foster's take care of full time?
Okay. We now have 12 residential homes.
Wow.
We are about to build another home. The ground will be broken the 13th of September. We're going to have a groundbreaking for, and it'll probably be for a while our final cottage. One of the homes is small and it's going to become a hospitality house, but we will have 12 residential homes for children. We have an average of 50. Because of requirements, you can only keep certain numbers of children, and certain ages count as 2 and some count as 1. We'll run anywhere from 50 to 60 children in the homes. Actually, 8 of our homes literally have children in them. The others are relief homes that give relief to the house parents. We do a rotating basis with the children.
I see. So there are people, and I'm sure some of the people watching may not realize how that works, that there are house parents that come and they live in the home and they take care of the kids, and then, like you said, they kind of rotate out. Is that how it works, so that they get some relief from?
Except our children stay with a set of house parents, but once a month they get time off, and the children go to be with relief parents.
I see.
Now they get to know these parents very well, and they give them a father and mother figure to live with. But basically, the children live in a home, a residential home. They eat, sleep, do chores, just like any other home, but it is a residential care home.
Right. So in the old days, we used to think of an orphanage or some huge building where there were lots and lots of kids, very few adults, and it was very unlike a home. But it sounds to me like these children's homes are much more like a residential home, like most of us grew up in and had the benefit and the blessing of being a part of. So trying to recreate that so that these kids get a semblance of a normal life, so to speak, right?
Yes, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about where these kids come from. You mentioned a little bit, touched on that earlier, but where do most of these kids come from? What's their life like before coming to Foster's? Kind of describe maybe the horrors of what life is like before they come.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. For example, I mentioned the one girl who was living in an 18-wheeler truck with her grandmother. Not too many months ago, Glenn Newberry, our president and CEO, asked some of the children, what are your memories before you came to Foster's home? And he extracted such answers as, well, I remember raw sewage running out in the yard because we had no working plumbing in our home. Some of them said, I've seen the horror of my parents being arrested and handcuffed and carried off, and then I entered the world, the fearful world of foster care. Some of them dreaded the beginning of school because they knew they'd be asked, well, what did you do this summer with your family? And they weren't with their family to do those things. Maybe they had, they remembered eviction. All of these children, and of course they come from all over the state, but they have been abused sexually, physically, emotionally. 86% of the children that we care for require a high degree of special care and counseling and help because of the trauma that they've been put through with their lives.
Right. It's absolutely heartbreaking to think that there are so many kids out there right now that are living in those kind of conditions, that are being not only neglected, but actively abused and hurt in all of these various ways. And I'm so thankful that there are those that are willing to help them. But I think that all of us need to put on a sense of awareness, don't you think, where we wake up from, sometimes we just kind of go through our life with kind of blindfolds on and not realizing that there are kids out there that don't have the safe and loving environments that a lot of us had growing up and continue to provide for our families. But there are those that don't have that, and they are helpless, and they need someone to step in and to help them. So are most of these kids, are they removed from the homes that they're in by the government or by another agency, or are they just brought to the home? How does that work?
Actually, there are several sources. Certainly, CPS, our Child Protective Services, brings some because they have had to intervene with families that are disruptive and in trouble. Some of our children, as a matter of fact, strangely enough today, many of our children come from failed adoptions.
Wow.
And those adoptions have come from older children who didn't have a good home and for whatever reason weren't able to adjust, and the adoption did not work. But it is surprising how many children enter children's homes today through failed adoption. Many of the children are brought there by parents and even grandparents who just have gone to their wits' end, and they, for lack of discipline or control or finances, cannot help these children. I remember several years ago one young man who came to the home. His grandmother brought him, and he did not realize he was going to be left there.
Wow.
And she drove off and left him. And can you imagine the trauma? And I'm proud to say that this young man later really came to life. He came to love Foster's Home. And as a matter of fact, one of the programs we have is a livestock program. He raised a steer, which you only get to do for being really a model child. He won second place at the Houston Fat Stock Show a few years ago.
Wow.
And he really kind of took up, but when he was left, he was angered and mad. And so the children come from so many different places and ways, none of them really characteristic of a good home that most of us know.
Right, right. Well, as heartbreaking as this is, I really appreciate you sharing this with us. When we come back, we'll find out what Foster's is doing to help these kids and what kind of results they've seen. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
More Crosstalk in a minute.
We have been here for 18 years.
7 years.
For 19 years.
The past 8 years.
Baker Heights Church of Christ invites you to take the next step by faith.
People can come here and be who they are.
It's my home away from home. The people that come here are so uplifting.
Everyone is accepted.
The people here are loving and caring and only want the best for you.
It's a really great place to grow together and to encourage each other.
If you came to Baker Heights, you would definitely have a place to serve.
If you're looking for a place to study and study the Word of God and a church home, Baker Heights would be the place.
The Baker Heights community is about more than just filling seats. We're about
love,
family,
peace,
hope,
joy.
Truth.
Join us and take the next step by faith.
Welcome back. We're talking with Larry Roberts from Foster's Home for Children. Larry, I appreciate you being on the show today. In the last segment, you were kind of telling us about some of the homes that these kids come from and some of the horrible situations that they're forced to grow up in before they come to Foster's. So if you would, share with us some of the goals that the Children's Home hopes to accomplish while these kids are under their care.
Okay, our number one goal is to give a safe place for these kids to live. To get them in a stable environment. Now, we don't try to replace their family.
Right.
As a matter of fact, many of our children are able to go back to their families sometimes, and we really want to do that. But what we try to do is to give a setting where they can have parental guidance, where they can have spiritual guidance, where they can have emotional stability, and be able to function when they leave and start a home of their own. We use a model for care that is called sanctuary. A sanctuary is a safe place. It was developed by some psychiatrists up in the Northeast who found that with psychiatric patients, they used a system of reward. If a child or person did well, they would reward them. And we try with this sanctuary to get them, because when you use the reward system, it was good, but the bad behavior always came back. And so they tried to work it so that they had a system that would get them out of the bad behavior. And what it does, it tries to make the person go back and deal with the problems and see that that doesn't have to happen anymore. And our real goal is to try and give them emotional, spiritual, physical stability in their lives for their own future.
Right, absolutely. You mentioned the spiritual aspect of things, and as Christians and as preachers, you and I understand the importance, the significance that having that spiritual foundation, especially as young people that are beginning their life, how important that is. So what does Foster's do to try to help build that spiritual foundation as they go forward? That's
a good question. All of our house parents, and as a matter of fact, our staff are all members of the Churches of Christ. We are affiliated with the Churches of Christ. Every home attends worship services regularly, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening. They also have devotionals on campus. They have devotionals in their homes. Our house parents, one of their roles is to give guidance spiritually and to teach God's Word to the children.
So what kind of, after these kids have been there for a while, what kind of improvements do you start to see in them physically, socially, spiritually, and in every other way? What kind of improvements have you seen over the years?
One of the greatest things you see is when you come on our campus, you see happy children. They've come out of horrible situations, but they adapt. Children adapt very quickly. When you drive through our campus, you'll see teenagers walking and listening to headphones, and you'll see them talking with each other. You'll see the little children playing on equipment and riding bicycles. There are bicycles everywhere and skateboards, and they're functioning. I think the greatest thing that you see and notice is happy children, and you know by that that they are really happy. Another thing we do is when our children come, they're usually at least 1 to 2 grades behind in school.
Wow.
And we have a tutoring program that helps to alleviate this problem and get them back. And when a child has been there a few months, they're usually back, caught up in school. They go to the Stephenville Public Schools. The home is in Stephenville, and it goes to the Stephenville ISD schools. They participate in all of the activities. 70% of our children are on the AB honor roll.
Wow.
And so one of the greatest things you see is their happiness, and we catch them up in education, and they do those things that help them to live. Also, Our 4-H and FFA, our animal projects, are one of the important things. Children are allowed to raise animals and show them in the local stock show.
Wonderful.
And it's they have to care for the animals themselves, get up early and tend to them twice a day and do all of the things that you have to do. And it really is a great program. Now, I'll also say that our animals, I don't think we've ever had an animal that missed the sale. And the funds that come from the animals they raise go into a college fund for that child, so that they can have a start when they have to leave us at graduation. And so that's a part of our program.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I imagine, speaking of graduation and going on to college, I imagine that can be kind of stressful for these kids that have come out of such a tumultuous situation and into this safe, wonderful, loving environment, to have to leave that again and to go off to college. I imagine that can be pretty frightening. So what does Foster's do to help them make that transition from high school to college and to life beyond school?
That's a good question. We do encourage them to attend college. And of course, we help them apply for the financial aid that they need to attend. We don't just kick them out when they reach 18 or graduate from high school. Right. We do give each child a laptop computer, a brand new laptop computer, because we think that's helpful in today's society for them. We also give them a car. Sometimes it's not the car of their dreams, but these cars are donated. So far, we have never had to buy a car for these seniors.
Wow.
And we pay their insurance for 6 months and help them, kind of get a start. And we title the car in their name. They're responsible. And we try to help them make that transition. By the way, if anybody wants to donate a car for a kid, that's how we supply our seniors. I remember one time a kid got a Volvo station wagon. And I remember one time a kid got an older model with very few miles, a great shape, but one of those old-timey minivans.
Oh, wow.
That you set up over the front wheel. I think he traded that off fairly quickly. But it's not the car necessarily of their dream, but it is a vehicle and transportation. Yeah. And Glenn Newberry, our president and CEO, he cares about these kids. All of the people there care. He is constantly having to go and help one. Not too long ago, he told me he'd been to Granbury. A young lady who was going to school over there ruined a tire, and he went over and bought a tire and put it on her car.
Wow.
And they're always getting help in some way, but we care for them when they leave. We also are trying to get a transition program that helps them a little bit with the move into life on their own. If we can get these transitional homes started, they'll pay a stipend and live there and go to college.
Wow.
As long as they make their grades in college, we help them. And when they call back, I mean, we're like their parents, and usually they need a little money, and we'll help them out from time to time, even after they leave.
How neat, how neat. Some people might ask, though, Larry, some people might say, why don't we just let the government take care of this? Let's just let the government take care of it. Why should Christians step in and take care of this? Why do we need places like Foster's? Why don't we just let the government do their job, quote unquote? So what would you say to somebody that asked you a question like that?
I know that there are probably places that the government operates that function fairly well, but when we just look at our borders and what's happening with the kids that are coming and they're being housed in dormitories, I know people ask occasionally, what does it cost to house a child? And Glenn Newberry is very honest about that. He takes every dime of our $2.2 million budget, because every administrative staff, every person, everything that is there is for these children. And on the figures we've come up with, it costs about $105 a day to keep a child. We noticed online that it's costing about $250 a day. That was the lowest estimate. We found higher estimates to keep these children that they're housing governmentally. Besides the spiritual and the wholesome aspect of having a real home, we think far above replaces some kind of institutionalized service. We try to make it like a home.
Absolutely. And then really that's what Christianity is all about, isn't it? It's about loving others and taking care of others and being like Christ was to us and coming to this earth and rescuing us and saving us, that we can do the same for others. And I believe that Christians really can provide the best kind of environment, the best kind of home. And so it just thrills my soul to see Christians that are doing this. And I think we all, and I hope that if people get nothing else out of this discussion today, that they'll remember that we all need to be aware of the people that are around us, the people that are in need, the people that are hurting, and there certainly are a lot of kids that are out there and that are hurting, and I'm so thankful for the work that y'all are doing. We just have about a minute left, Larry, but if people want some more information, find out more about Foster's Home for Children, well, where can they go to get more information?
We have a website, www.fostershome.org. You can find us, type in Foster's Home, Stephenville, Texas, and you'll find our website. They can call me at the Church of Christ in Eastland. There are many ways. One of the greatest things people can do to really know what happens to these kids is go see a home. Mm-hmm. We're having our Children's Day September 13th on a Saturday. It starts at noon with a barbecue, and that's when our seniors make a short address. So come
Fantastic.
And visit. People are always welcome. Go in and go to the administration building.
Fantastic.
Visit a home to see what they're doing.
Thank you, Larry. I really appreciate you being here. We'll be back with one final thought right after this quick message. Please stay with us.
More Crosstalk in a minute. We come from all walks of life, wondering why we're here and where we're headed. While the world is confusing and constantly pulling your family in different directions, you can find peace in the words of the Bible. Crosstalk is here to do just that. Every Wednesday at noon, have lunch with Wes McAdams from Baker Heights Church of Christ as he highlights different issues that we all face every day. Every week, a new subject is brought to the table so you can find comfort for today's challenges. Through application of biblical teachings to modern issues faced today, Crosstalk will bring hope and light to your life. Join us every Wednesday at noon for Baker Heights Crosstalk on the CW.
I want to thank Larry Roberts again for being on the show today and for sharing with us the good work that Foster's Home for Children is doing. Friends, it's easy for us to get so caught up in our own little world that we forget there are others that are living all around us who need our help. Chances are there is someone in your neighborhood who needs your help. Maybe it's a child like we talked about today in a dysfunctional and a dangerous home, or maybe it's a single parent who just needs you to encourage them and help them out a little bit. Maybe it's a widow or a widower you could be there for. Find someone you can serve. Find someone you can help. James chapter 1 and verse 27 says, "Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world." After hearing that, can you honestly say you are a religious person? Are you helping others? Are you looking out for the widows and the orphans around you, those who can't take care of themselves? If not, why not start today? But maybe it's you that needs a little encouragement. If we can help you in some way, please give us a call at Baker Heights. The phone number is 325-692-6974. If you have a question about something you've heard on the show today, you can send us an email. The email address is questions@bakerheights.org. We may even include your question on a future episode so others can benefit from the answer as well. If you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends and family about Crosstalk. It airs every Wednesday at noon right here on the CW. And you can find an archive of past episodes on our website at bakerheights.org/crosstalk. If you're looking for a biblical, friendly, loving, and growing congregation, we'd like to invite you to come worship with us at Baker Heights. And always remember that we love you, God loves you, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Go, 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 go,